enough! I swear!
It's always funny when you get a batshit crazy ideology and it just has one of those iconic moments. Like when you get a feminist type and someone sits down in front of her and pretends to be the most outrageously batshit crazy feminist. And she just can't tell the difference. Now imagine that happening on the BBC. So it all started with this innocent Twitter exchange between honest social justice warrior Godfrey Elfwick, who's totally not a troll with a profile like this, demisexual, genderqueer, Muslim atheist.
La 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 la. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Pronouns, self, and filters life through the lens of minority issues.
And by reading a lot of feminist writing, especially the words of women of color and queer women from around the world, I learned to see through a sociological lens.
So, Godfrey tweets, actually, I've never seen Star Wars, but the fact that the bad guy was all black and ate watermelons was unbelievably racist, even for the 70s.
Be careful. Even in defeat, Saruman is dangerous.
And she tweets, at Godfrey Elfwick, hi, looking for some guests who have never seen Star Wars to talk on radio. Would you be interested? DM or email me. The answer is an unequivocal yes. I will speak on the BBC about Star Wars. Thank you for the offer, Shearsy. Hell yeah! At this point, the only way you could up the trolling is if full Macintosh. You know, full, wow, the new Star Wars trailer contains 0 white dudes Macintosh. If full feminist frequency Macintosh himself said, nah, just trolling. Well, thankfully for the politically correct BBC.
The social problem is that men are raised to hate women. And technology's not going to fix that.
They didn't get a white dude shitlord on to talk about Star Wars. They actually got someone on who is black, because they see informs us in his tweet. Because I was born white, but realised later in life that I was wrong-skinned. And transitioned mentally to black. And with wonderfully progressive social justice warrior feminist-friendly views on rape. Don't want to be labelled a rapist? Respect women's boundaries and remember that consent can be revoked at any time, even after sex. And on religion, I used to identify as atheist, as I don't believe in God. But when I saw how racist the movement had become, I converted to moderate Islam. And men will always be men. There's no changing their nature. Thank God I'm a trans woman, so it doesn't apply to me. And they thought, yeah, good progressive social justice warrior. We should get him on the BBC to talk about Star Wars. If only I were joking.
So Godfrey and Rob, we gave you some homework today, didn't we? We said sit down, watch the trailer for the new Star Wars film, and seeing as you've never seen anything before, give us your impressions. So Godfrey, first of all, what did you make of it?
But could our social justice warrior troll full progressive sorts? You know, at the BBC, could they distinguish between someone who was moronically suggesting that Star Wars was sexist and racist from a real social justice warrior?
It was very low quality. It's not my cup of tea at all. From what I have seen of the old Star Wars films, there's a lot of social problems with them. They're rooted in homophobia, sexism, casual racial stereotypes. The gold robot's head, C-25 or whatever he's called, he's a camp New York coward. The only main female ends up in a space bikini and changed to a horny space slug. And the main bad guy, what's he called? Dark Raider. That's just, he's all black.
Rob, save us. Rob, save us. Rob, save us, please.
He listens to rap music. It's just a really bad racial stereotype.
Yeah, that's right. Star Wars was racist because Dark Raider was black and liked rap music, which is a lazy, negative stereotype.
He is every stereotype about black queer men all rolled into one little pretty package, and it constantly infuriates me because we don't want to reinforce these stereotypes. We want to dispel them and break them down and make very interesting, complicated, textured characters that are beyond stereotypes. But
I'm the most powerful Jedi ever!
But no, True Blood can't do that.
Plus, of course, the film normalizes the idea that if you've got a gun, then it's okay to shoot the black guy.
Whoa, what are you doing? You shot first.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
I don't know the answer to that.
And you know what else? Now I think about it, Dark Raider was a deadbeat dad.
I know you're upset and it's all a little shocking, but honestly, I'm just so happy to finally meet you.
You cut off my hand!
Don't be a baby, Luke. I had both my arms and legs cut off.
Your journey towards the dark side is almost complete.
Well, yeah, it should be.
But you have like a problem with the social element of it, like.
Well, I know there was. I think there was. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Why am I the only black Jedi on the Jedi Council? Ain't nobody else in here black, and if y'all black, you got a bone in the middle of your head. Why don't you just throw some cotton balls around on the ground? Let me practice for you, Master Yoda.
What?
Oh, y'all are slave owners.
Or Leia, who spent time in her space bikini tied to a randy giant slug.
When Sauron took over, you hid in a tree. I led the Rebel Alliance, and we saved the whole galaxy.
Star Wars had one lead female character, and like I said, she ends up in a gold space bikini, chained to a giant horny space slug. It reeked of misogyny.
I've been working on this for quite some time.
A movie?
No, it's a battle station. I call it the Sphere of Fear.
And what does the feminist sort at the BBC get worked up about?
Oh, but hang on, let's not get into the Disney thing. I mean, Disney as well. Don't get me started on Frozen. I mean, that is not about. In some ways, it empowers women. In other ways, it just makes them into sexualized objects, which little girls watch, and it's terrifying. So,
plus the added irony that the feminist-friendly BBC presenter grew up with Star Wars. She loved it. It was her childhood.
I'm 38 and I grew up with this. This was my childhood. How did you miss it?
Join me and we can rule the galaxy together.
Never! Obi-Wan told me you killed my husband, the father of my child.
No. I am your baby's daddy.
This was my childhood. How did you miss it?
You can kiss my ass. Pretend it's your brother.
But should kids these days enjoy a princess fantasy? Hell no! That's portraying women as sex objects.
In other ways, it just makes them into sexualized objects, which little girls watch, and it's terrifying.
Modern feminism in a nutshell. But while we're on the subject of sexy women, because there is nothing that modern feminists hate more than sexy women. Which is why they try and dehumanize and degrade them all the time by calling them sex objects.
Sexualized objects.
Sex object.
Sex objects.
Sex objects.
Sexual objectification. Sexual objectification. Sexually objectified.
Sex objects. Sexual objects.
Sex objects. Sex objects. Sexual objectification. Sexual objects.
Sex object. Sexually objectifying. I want to make an appeal first to logic. When we're talking about sex objects.
Sex objects. Sexual objectification.
Sex objects. Since these women are just objects.
Sex object. Sex object. When you
sexual objectification.
Sex object.
Everything is sexist. Everything is racist. Everything is homophobic. And you have to point it all out.
Sex objects.
Sex objects.
Sexual objectification.
Sex objects.
And sexually objectifying.
Sex objects.
Sexual object.
Sex object. Be sex objects.
Sexual objectification contributes to a culture where sexual violence isn't taken seriously.
So we go into parties and we know where we are in the pretty girl pecking order, and when another woman is valued for being a sex object, it actually makes us feel bad about ourselves.
This is the essence of what sexual objectification means.
This is some bullshit. Everyone should be pissed that this is so normal.
Yeah, you're right, Lacey. People should be pissed that this is normal. That the only people that dehumanize women by calling them sex objects are feminists. I mean, let me just repeat that for you. The only people who call women sex objects are feminists, like Anita Sarkeesian. And tell me what you think calling women sex objects does for them, Anita.
It erases the reality that some choices that women make have an enormous negative impact on other women's lives.
warned you we tried. Listen, you did not. Now screwed we all will be.
But let me just tell you, as someone who has spent a lot of time in the UK recently, that I have honestly heard on Radio 4, that's the BBC's factual radio, they describe the new wave of internet feminists as the toughest feminists yet. Other than, of course, the fact that Twitter gives them PTSD. Or remember that for these new internet feminists, teasing your sister, that's rape too.
I got raped when my brother teased someone else's sister.
And of course, this new wave of internet feminists thinks that women are so weak that merely calling them bossy is what's scaring them away from leadership.
Pushy, stubborn, bossy, bossy.
When I was growing up, I was called bossy.
I think the word bossy is just a squasher.
Being labeled something matters. By middle school,
Girls are less interested in leadership than boys. And that's because they worry about being called bossy.
And yeah, these are the same feminists who think the definition of the word rape should be expanded to include thought rape and word rape.
I get raped every day, several times. By thoughts, by words, by looks.
Or they think that merely mentioning their name on Twitter is harassment, or making fake threats to themselves and getting themselves put in jail. Or, you know, just throwing around fake gang rape accusations like candy. Oh yeah, bravo modern feminism. But just because it's important, let me just remind you one last time why feminists are the only people calling sexy women sex objects.
So we go into parties and we know where we are in the pretty girl pecking order, and when another woman is valued for being a sex object, it actually makes us feel bad about ourselves.
This is the essence of what sexual objectification means.
This is some bullshit. Everyone should be pissed that this is so normal.
Honest social justice warrior Godfrey Elfwick, who's totally not a troll with a profile like this, demisexual, genderqueer, Muslim atheist.
La 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 la. Yeah.
Pronouns ze self and full.
This helmet is chafing my eyebrows! I swear!
It's always funny when you get a batshit crazy idea alters life through the lens of minority issues.
And by reading a lot of feminist writing, especially the words of women of color and queer women from around the world, I learned to see through a sociological lens.
So, Godfrey tweets, actually, I've never seen Star Wars, but the fact that the bad guy was all black and ate watermelons was unbelievable, and it just has one of those iconic moments. Like when you get a feminist type and someone sits down in front of her and pretends to be the most outrageously batshit crazy feminist, and she just can't tell the difference. Now imagine that happening on the BBC. So it all started with this innocent Twitter exchange between racist, even for the 70s.
Be careful. Even in defeat, Saruman is dangerous.
And she tweets, at Godfrey Elfwick, hi, looking for some guests who have never seen Star Wars to talk.